Peace be upon you, brothers and sisters. This is Saeed Mirza from WillYouNotReason.com, and today is Thursday, May 26, 2022, and I wanted to make a video today about a topic that I think a lot of people who are listening might not be familiar with, and that has to do with the idea of a sahar in the Qur'an, which is usually translated as sorcery or magic, and obviously in the Quran, in reference to the story of Moses and his coming to the people of Pharaoh and revealing to them that he was the messenger of the Lord of all mankind, and then bringing proofs of his messengership, the proofs that he could throw his staff and it would become a snake, and the putting his hand in his bosom and then bringing it out, and it was white for the beholders. We find this in the Quran, and obviously a lot of people take this as sort of a metaphorical viewpoint, and in that these did not actually happen. There's metaphors behind it. I take more of a literal viewpoint of the Quran, so my understanding is that these were miracles. These were proofs in the literal sense, as in the staff that Moses threw down, he cast down. It actually turned into a snake. Now, as you know, in the story, the magicians who are under the employment of Pharaoh, they step forth, and they also throw their sticks and ropes, which appear to men to be moving when they're actually not moving. So this is the difference between the truth and falsehood, as in Moses was given proofs that were real, and they actually the staff actually did transform into a snake, whereas in the case of the Pharaoh's sorcerers, they could only deceive the minds of men into thinking that these things were something else. They didn't actually turn into something else. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, before I do, I wanted to recite to you a passage in the Quran which kind of sets up the stage for the discussion that follows. And this is chapter 7, and I'm just going to read to you what it says here. This is going forward from verse 103. Then we raised up after them Moses with our proofs to Pharaoh and his eminent ones, but they wronged them. Then see thou how was the final outcome of the workers of corruption. And Moses said, O Pharaoh, I am a messenger from the Lord of all creation, obliged to ascribe naught to God save the truth. I have come to you with clear evidence from your Lord, so send thou with me the children of Israel. Said he, If thou hast come with a proof, bring thou it, if thou be of the truthful. So he cast his staff, and then was it a clear serpent. And he drew forth his hand, and then was it white for the beholders. Said the eminent ones of the people of Pharaoh, This is a learned sorcerer, who will turn you out of your land. So what do you command? They said, Delay thou him and his brother, and send thou into the cities gatherers, to bring to thee every learned sorcerer. And the sorcerers came to Pharaoh. They said, There is a reward for us if we be the victors. Said he, Yea, and you will be of those brought near. They said, O Moses, wilt thou cast, or will we be the ones who cast? He said, Cast. And when they cast, they bewitched the eyes of the people, and struck fear into them, and they produced a mighty sorcery. And we instructed Moses, Cast thou thy staff, and then it swallowed up what they falsified. And the truth was established, and what they did made vain. Thereupon were they defeated, and they turned about, brought low. So, what do we get out of this? That the sorcerers, they bewitched the eyes of the people, they cast, and they struck fear into them. Okay, so this was the idea behind their sorcery, to put fear in the hearts of men. Now, obviously, everyone is being exposed to the television and news and TikTok and social media, and what is this all doing to your mind? This is really the question. It's putting fear into your mind. So that's the the aim of this sorcery that is actually it's a psyop, okay, psychological operation, because this is a warfare. And obviously Brother Garens has talked about this a lot in his channel, that we are in a warfare scenario. This is a war, so you need to understand that. And so this media, which is no accident that it is exploded, and everyone is addicted to this entertainment. This is not an accident. The powers to be, they put in a lot of infrastructure. Fiber lines have been laid across the world. Satellites, everything has been put in place to manipulate your perception, to corrupt your mind, because this is where the battlefield is, in the mind. And so the sorcery in this day and age is this information, which is misinformation or disinformation. This is the sorcery. And the point of this sorcery is to put fear into your minds and to bewitch your eyes so you don't see the reality, the truth. And I'm not contesting here, as to the veracity of incidents which are obviously beamed across the whole entire world and influence and shape and obviously manipulate the emotions of men. I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is that the power of mass communication is that it can now influence the minds and perceptions of men, and it is being used to shape society in a certain manner. Because again, if you take the Quran as a literal word of God, which again I do, you have to accept that Satan, Shaitan, is a literal being. And he has been given access to whisper into the hearts of men, but he is a being and he has a definite plan. And there's a strategy behind this plan, and he's working towards the completion of this plan. And what is his plan? His plan is to lead us into the fire and obviously humiliate us in this world. And this is what we see. If you have eyes to see, you can see the utter depravity and brutish nature of man, which has come to the forefront. And people are now simply beasts. There's no denying it. Most of them do not have any intellectual capacity to reason or think or understand or perceive. They are blindly following, obeying the masses. They are blindly obeying and following their emotions. And these emotions are being pricked. They're being manipulated by the architects of this entire system, the elites, who are themselves under the influence of Satan, and they openly admit that too as well. So now let's talk about this PSYOP operation that's been ongoing, and this is not just something that the United States is waging against its own enemies. This is a PSYOP is being waged across the whole world, across all populations. Even the Americans themselves are in the throes of this deception. And the whole idea is to export this culture of what? Of depravity, of lust, hatred, materialism, to export this culture across the whole world, to destroy any semblance of normality, any semblance of decency, any semblance of righteousness, God-fearing. This is the culture that is being exported through mass communication. Now, I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of substance behind what I'm talking about. And I stumbled upon this document. I'll put a link in the drop-down box below if you would like to read it in its entirety. It's by Major Michael Aquino, and I'll get to who this guy is after I'm done with this article, because that's another interesting, that's actually very interesting who this guy is. But anyway, the paper is titled "From PSYOP to MindWar, The Psychology of Victory. Now, I'm not going to read the whole paper to you. I'm just going to read bits and pieces here and there. So he's talking about the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, the invasion of Iraq. Okay. While in the 1980s, I had no reason to think that this paper had any official effect upon U.S. PSYOP doctrine within or beyond the army, it was with some fascination that I saw specific of its prescriptions applied during the first Gulf War, and recently even more obviously during the 2003 invasion of Iraq. In both instances, extreme PSYOP was directed both against the object of the attack and upon U.S. domestic public perception and opinion. In 2003, to the extent of embedding journalists with the military units to inevitably channel their perspectives and perceptions. The impact of even these minor techniques of mind war was remarkable. A psychological climate of inexorable U.S. victory was created and sustained in both the United States and Iraq, which accelerated that victory on the ground. Somewhat less positively, the failure of mind war in this instance to be guided by only the most rigorous principles of truth and ethics has just as inexorably led to a substantial post-victory evaporation of that euphoric climate. Therein lies the Achilles heel of mind war. Invoking as it does the most intense emotions and commitments of its audiences, it must deliver the goods as they are judged by the target audiences. If the ethical values of these audiences are not respected, if mind war is used only in the service of ulterior motives and objectives, the resulting disintoxication can be socially shattering. Now, what this guy is saying is that psychological warfare, which he's terming as mind war, was used to a certain extent in the Iraq invasion by the U.S., where this whole war, the war drums were beaten, and the weapons of mass destruction, and Saddam Hussein being a villain, the world was better off without him. This sort of rhetoric was pushed by the United States and its ally Britain. By their use of the media, right? CNN, BBC, Fox News, they were all in sync, in lockstep, and pushing this lie, the weapons of mass destruction, which were never found, by the way. And this everyone knows this, right? So they were pushing this propaganda. He's not using the word propaganda because the propaganda is a term that obviously has been blacklisted. It is a term that evokes people when you say propaganda, it has very it's been corrupted to the point where they have to come up with a new term, which is what they do. So now he's using mind war for propaganda, and he's going to talk a lot about truth and ethics. But when we're done with this article, I'll share with you who this guy is, his backstory, and you'll see what he means by truth and ethics, because this guy is serving Satan, okay, Shaitan. And we read in the Qur'an that Shaitan is a deceiver, okay, and he was the one who said to Adam, that if you eat from this tree, you will be given eternal life and you will be one of the angels. And surprise, surprise, that did not happen. And not only did that not happen, the opposite of that happened. Adam was confined to an earthly existence to live and die therein, and he was, at least outwardly, almost changed to the form of a beast, right? That's what it says when it says in the Quran that their bodies were revealed to them, or their shame was revealed to them, and it became animals, in the sense that outwardly they shared a lot of characteristics with the animals of the earth. So Satan, the deceiver, it's not that he just lies, he tells you the opposite of the truth. So when this guy is talking about truth, he's actually talking about falsehood in the sense of the complete opposite of truth. This is what this guy is talking about, and I know and I'll share with you who this guy is, and you understand what I'm talking about here. But just understand that what he's cloaking in truth, that's actually falsehood. Now, what is he saying? He's saying that they must deliver the goods, as in, if they say that, that Saddam Hussein was a bad person, then they must, deliver the goods, as in they must prove it. And what he's saying is that the reason the mind war worked in the beginning phases of the war, but when the war was won, or whatever was achieved, I guess was a better term, the people were disillusioned because they never produced the weapons of mass destruction. So basically he's saying that they should have produced the weapons of mass destruction, in the sense that they should have planted it in Iraq, and not gone halfway to the truth. or falsehood, if you will. Now, what is mind war? Mind war is the deliberate, aggressive convincing of all participants in a war that we will win that war. This is his terminology. This is what he's saying mind war means. So let us begin with a simple name change. He's changing the name from psychological operations to mind war. We shall rid ourselves of the self-conscious, almost embarrassed concept of psychological operations. In its place, we shall create mind war. The term is harsh and fear-inspiring, and so it should be. It is the term of attack and victory, not of the rationalization and coaxing and conciliation. The enemy may be offended by it. That is quite all right as long as he is defeated by it. This reminds me of a quote by Nero, who obviously, if you study history, the tyrant Nero of the Roman Empire, he said, "Let them hate as long as they shall fear." So this is the same sort of mindset. The tyrannical mindset is always the same, to dominate your enemy and to put fear in their hearts, which again ties with the concept of sahar in the Qur'an, magic. Now, he goes on to give you a little bit more a more explanation of what he means by mind war. It is deliberate in that it is planned, systematic, and comprehensive effort involving all levels of activity, from the strategic to the tactical. It is aggressive because opinions and attitudes must be actively changed from those antagonistic to us to those supportive of us if we are to achieve victory. We will not win if we content ourselves with countering opinions and attitudes instilled by enemy governments. We must reach the people before they resolve to support their armies, and we must reach those armies before our combat troops ever see them on battlefields. So he's talking about winning the minds, not winning the minds, more dominating the minds, because according to this doctrine, battles are not won on battlefields; they are won in the minds of men, which is true. That's where they are won. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what he's saying here. Strategic mind war must begin the moment war is considered to be inevitable. It must seek out the attention of the enemy nation through every available medium, and it must strike at the nation's potential soldiers before they put on their uniforms. It is in their homes and their communities that they are most vulnerable to mind war. Was the United States defeated in the jungles of Vietnam, or was it defeated in the streets of American cities? So you have to give them credit. These servers of Satan, they are cunning, and they do learn from their mistakes. So they realize that they lost the war in Vietnam because of the change of public perception, and so they learned from that. So now, before they even enter into the battlefield, they want to first manufacture consent with the masses, the masses of asses. They have to influence them and capture their assent before they can move on for the kill. These media are, of course, the electronic media. Okay, now this is where he's talking about the television, radio, and obviously now you have the internet, which is all over the world. To this end, mind war must be strategic in emphasis, with tactical applications playing a reinforcing supplementary role. In its strategic context, mind war must reach out to friends, enemies, and neutrals alike across the globe, neither through primitive battlefield leaflets and loudspeakers of PSYOPS, nor through the weak, imprecise, and narrow effort of psychotronics, but through the media possessed by the United States, which have the capabilities to reach virtually all people on the face of the earth. So this is really the crux of his argument. He's saying we already have the infrastructure, why not use it? But actually, he's a little late to the game, because this structure was already in place, and this structure was designed to be in place to obviously dominate the minds of men. He's just making evident what we already know. You know this, right? You know that most of the people, your loved ones, doesn't make any difference whether you sit in the United States or in Pakistan. They're being corrupted by the media. You know this already, right? You know this. You've seen it, right? And it doesn't make any difference whether you say you're Muslim or you're Christian, or you're wearing hijab or you're not wearing hijab, or you're doing salat or not salat. At the end of the day, you're still watching the news, which is mostly falsehood. You know this, right? And you're being influenced by it, and you're letting your kids watch Disney movies, which have a lot of symbolics, occult programming in them. You know this, right? This is not something that is a revelation. What he's saying, you know that this is happening. Your culture is being destroyed. It's being dismantled, right? Every decency is being lost because this is the plan of Shaitan. Okay, to continue. These media are, of course, the electronic media, television and radio, state-of-the-art developments in satellite communication, video recording techniques, and laser and optical transmission of broadcasts make possible a penetration of the minds of the world such as would have been inconceivable just a few years ago. Actually, it was conceived. That's why the internet was designed and implemented, and everyone was put onto this platform, which obviously the rulers of the world control. And the internet is a weapon. Let's be clear on what it is. It is a weapon, and it is a very powerful and devastating weapon. And let's look at his example. Like the sword Excalibur, we have but to reach out and seize this tool, and it can transform the world for us if we have the courage and the integrity to enhance civilization with it. If we do not accept Excalibur, then we relinquish our ability to inspire foreign cultures with our morality. If they then desire moralities unsatisfactory to us, we have no choice but to fight them on a more brutish level. Now, this is interesting that he's invoking the doctrine of morality. And what is this doctrine of morality that he wishes to inspire foreign cultures with? This is the question, right? At the end of the day, his morality is that if we are unable to move them by the means of by soft means, then we will get to the level of a more brutish means. So this is his doctrine, right? And again, you can see from his talk what he's saying. He's saying the morality of the United States, which is what? I live in the United States. I've been living in the United States for half of my life. I know the morality of the people here. Completely depraved, selfish, immoral, agnostic, ignorant, brutes. This is the morality of the United States. And by the way, this is not just the United States. Now this morality is all over the world. It's already happened. What he's saying. I mean, this started happening in my country, Pakistan, when I was a teenager. The shift from, respecting the elders and at least keeping some of the commandments of God and fearing God. That's out of the picture. Now it's, dog eat dog. That's the morality that's been exported by the United States or by the European civilization, if you will, across the world. And the level of corruption, the level of selfishness is beyond belief within the last 50 years. And so this is the morality that he's talking about that apparently, he wants to inspire the world with, of fear, of hate. Now, coming back to this article, MindWar must target all participants if it is to be effective. It must not only weaken the enemy, it must strengthen the United States. So he's basically saying everything is on the table. Everything is kosher. You can brainwash all the people, whether it's yours or theirs, doesn't make any difference because the Satan doesn't care. He wants to take all of mankind into hell, not just he wants to spare the Americans or whatever, Now he's trying to differentiate between MindWar and propaganda. And he's saying that propaganda does not work because the person who is doing the propaganda, he must not believe in propaganda, in what he's saying. And that's true. A propagandist has to believe that what he's doing is a lie for his propaganda to work because he is manipulating the minds of men and he's shaping the minds of men. So he knows that there is the doctrine he's pushing forward. This doctrine is just something that he's trying to instill in the minds of men. But he's making the differentiation that in MindWar, the propagandist is he's not going to use the word propagandist, but in the MindWar, the person who is initiating this, he himself has to believe in it, which I'm sure this person does himself because he serves the Satan. And I'll get to who this person is, and I'll give you a little bit of his background. So this is interesting. He says, as Jacques Ellul puts it, the propagandist is not and cannot be a believer Moreover, he cannot believe in the ideology he must use in his propaganda. He is merely a man at the service of a party, a state, or some other organization, and his task is to ensure the efficiency of that organization. If the propagandist has any political conviction, he must put it aside in order to be able to use some popular mass ideology. He cannot even share that ideology, for he must use it as an object and manipulate it without the respect that he would have for it if he believed in it. He quickly acquires contempt for these popular images and beliefs. Unlike PSYOP, MindWar has nothing to do with the deception or even with selected and therefore misleading truth. Rather, it states a whole truth that, if it does not now exist, will be forced into existence by the will of the United States. So, it's interesting, again, what he means by the truth, because this is the same kind of games they play when they say, in God we trust, put it in the dollar bill. But the question is, which God are you talking about? Because they don't mean the God that you and I mean by God. When I say God, I mean the God of Abraham and the God who revealed the scripture, the Qur'an. This is who I mean by God. But that's not who they mean God is. So for him, the truth is what he believes in. It's not the objective truth. That's what he says when he says that rather it states a whole truth that if it does not now exist, it will be forced into existence by the will of the United States. So because, these are people who are completely lost and ignorant, this mindset, that they believe that what they think is the truth, they will force it upon the world because of their military might and domination over the minds of men, and they will get them to accept this truth, even though it's falsehood. Unlike Elul's cynical propagandist, the MindWar operative must know that he speaks the truth and he must be personally committed to it. What he says is only a part of MindWar. The rest and the test of its effectiveness lies in the conviction he projects to his audience, in the rapport he establishes with it. Okay, here's another interesting part. For the mind to believe in its own decisions, it must feel that it made those decisions without coercion. Coercive measures used by the operative consequently must not be detectable by ordinary means. There is no need to resort to mind-weakening drugs such as those explored by the CIA. In fact, the exposure of a single such method would do unacceptable damage to MindWar's reputation for truth. Okay, now what is he saying here? He's saying that people need to come to their conclusions by themselves, but that what is more important is that they must believe that they made these decisions, these conclusions, without coercion. Okay, and this is why in the media you see this sort of step 1, step 2, step 3, because they are leading you towards the conclusions. And it is vital that the target must not realize that he is being led down this path, or in other words, that he is being coerced, and that it should be given the illusion that he came to this conclusion on his own. And he says, in fact, the exposure of a single such method would do unacceptable damage to MindWar's reputation for truth. So it is the exposure of a single such method. They are employing these methods, but they cannot expose these methods, so they have to be secretive. And the reputation for truth, that is its own reputation. See, this is what's interesting, because if you remember this whole nonsense that was happening about 2 years ago, the U.S. was considered, and is still considered, because this is again the sahar, the sorcery that we're living in, that the U.S. is considered as the last defense, that it is the protector of mankind. This is the image that the U.S. has projected via its media, via the Hollywood filth that's churned out, and that's the truth of it. But even beyond that, these men, they cast themselves in the robes of righteousness when they are the most vile, most devious, the most treacherous men. And God knows what's in the hearts. So we will let them do what they want to do, and for them is the fire. We know this. And we just have to worry about ourselves. But we have to understand who these men are. So this whole reputation for truth, this is all reputation. This is all just fakery. The US is a corrupt nation, and it is destroying the whole world via its might. And that's the truth of it. So when they are exporting some sort of solution to a problem, you better believe they created the problem, and you better believe that that solution has nothing to do with the problem. That is a different solution for a different problem. This is how this works. You have to understand that. Okay, the world is better off without the US meddling in its affairs, but obviously the US will never leave it alone, because the shaitan will never leave man alone. This is the problem, see, because the people at the top, the elites, they are serving the shaitan, and the shaitan, obviously, he wants everyone to go into the fire with him. So you have to understand that this game, this chessboard is about truth and falsehood. And this is a battle that is on a spiritual level. It's at a higher level. And what you're seeing is just manifestations of what this epic battle is about. And anyway, he goes on and on about, how MindWar can be used by the U.S. defense establishment to win a war, because there is no substitute for victory. And I do encourage you to read this article in its entirety. It's all right there. It's not something that is I'm just pulling out of a hat. This is real. But let's talk about this gentleman, Michael Aquino, and I'm just going to read to you the article from Wikipedia. So it's not something that I am coming up with. This is what it is. Temple of Set. The Temple of Set is an occult initiatory order founded in 1975, a new religious movement and form of Western esotericism. The temple espouses a religion known as Setianism, whose practitioners are called Setians. Now, I told you about them changing the names, right? Because this is very important. If a name gets blacklisted, they just change the name, right? This is why you see a lot of charitable, a lot of organizations, non-profit organizations that pose as charitable fronts, they keep changing their names because they get caught doing something and then they have to change their names. So this is a very old trick. Anyway, coming back to the article. This is sometimes identified as a form of Satanism, although this term is not often embraced by Setians and is contested by some academics. Now, it might be Setians or Setians, I don't know. English is not my first language. Anyway, so they're not going to accept that they're Satanists, right? Whatever, it doesn't make any difference. Let's see what their doctrine is. The temple was established in the United States in 1975 by Michael Aquino, an American political scientist, military officer, and a high-ranking member of Anton LaVey's Church of Satan. Now, I do encourage you to look into this Church of Satan and who this gentleman, Anton LaVey, was. But anyway, this guy was his close associate. If not a close associate, he was involved with some of the activities that the Church of Satan was involved in, because he was a high-ranking member. He was a priest there. And this is the same guy who wrote this doctrine, From PSYOPS to MindWar, The Psychology of Victory. So why would a guy who is involved in Satanism be involved in MindWar? Because the Satan whispers in the hearts of men. And his agents, at least the elite agents, they are well versed in the art of deception, propaganda, and they use these means to change your perceptions and to manipulate your emotions, which is what the Satan does. So again, what I'm trying to do is show you that what you're reading in the Qur'an, this actually is the truth, and you are seeing that truth being manifested in what these people are doing, because they are using these truths. They are using these occult forces. They are in step with Satan. They are the party of Satan, as the Quran calls them. They are the followers of Satan, and they are corrupting your minds and the minds of your children and the minds of your family members. This is actively happening. This is not some sort of lunatic theory. This is all. It's in black and white. Okay. Okay, dissatisfied with the direction in which LaVey was taking the church, because Aquino, he wanted to go further. Aquino resigned and, according to his own claim, embarked on a ritual to invoke Satan, who revealed to him a sacred text called the Book of Coming Forth by Night. According to Aquino, in this work, Satan revealed his true name to be that of Set, which has been the name used by his followers in ancient Egypt. Aquino was joined in establishing the temple by a number of other dissatisfied members of LaVey's church, and soon various Setian groups were established across the United States. Anyway, they talk more about what the initiation is to this, what the initiation is to this temple, and I'll put a link of this in the drop-down box below. And so this is the gentleman who wrote this manual, and again, this ties back to the idea of sahar, which is the sorcery that is being practiced upon your mind. And since you were born, okay, because you were born in this electronic age, like I was born in this electronic age, and we read in the Qur'an in Surah 114 where we are supposed to take refuge in God from the whispers of Satan, shaitan. And I just want to recite to you that as well. In the name of God, the Almighty, the Merciful, say thou, I seek refuge in the Lord of mankind, the King of mankind, the God of mankind, from the evil of the retreating whisperer, who whispers in the breasts of mankind, from the jinnah and mankind. So I hope this got you thinking a little bit about the evil that we are encountering and the kind of people we're dealing with, and that they will stop at nothing to dominate your minds and the minds of your children and to corrupt you spiritually. So not only are you humiliated in this life and do their bidding, but also enter the fire. And again, we seek refuge in God from these evil men and from the evil one, Shaitan. And we trust in God, and we ask God for help, and we ask God for assistance. Guide thou us to the straight path, the path of those on whom thou hast blessed, and not the path of those who have incurred wrath, and nor of those who go astray. Until next time, peace and blessings be upon you.